Buenos dias. We're seeing new all-time high frustration levels. I think what we're currently seeing is even worse than the Terra collapse or the FTX collapse. And this is now going throughout the crypto community and especially the Cosmos community. We're seeing maximum frustration amongst investors, obviously, amongst retail, the community, but also even worse amongst founders. And I think that is very concerning for a few projects. What I wanted to say though, before we getting into this, and there's so much to cover, we have a couple of new airdrops, 2 new mainnet launches, we have testnets going on, we have a lot of news, 2 major exploits, and a lot more also on the macro level. But I really want to share this message that crypto really is extremely volatile, extremely emotional. It's a roller coaster of emotions, of your personal portfolio, of your personal involvement into the industry, right? It depends how attached you are to it, but especially if you have a lot of money invested and if you're following the space closely, crypto is 95% pain and suffering, but it is also 5% glory that can be life-changing. This is my tagline on Twitter. This is my personal conviction because I have lived through that over the past 7 years that I'm in crypto. At the same time, yes, there are certain things in the Cosmos ecosystem specifically that can be improved, that hopefully will be improved. If you have any creative ideas or something that you think needs to change, then I always recommend to step up, take the steering wheel and the fate of that problem that you're seeing into your own hands, right? Don't ever put yourself in a position that the outcome of what you want, what you expect, depends on other people, because then you are cornering yourself and then you're giving the fate of your expectations into other people's hands. And I think that's literally the worst thing you can do. But like I said, we have so much to cover, starting with macro news, then we have some Cosmos specific news, airdrop news, and then we'll also finish it off with a quick tutorial. But starting with the US ETF flows for Ethereum, we're seeing another $77 million net outflow the day of yesterday. And it's mostly because Grayscale is still massively selling off 9 figures, 133 million yesterday. They now cumulatively had $2 billion in outflows, but they're only holding $6.6 billion more, right? So this means this is not going to go on forever. I think the selling will slowly decrease. And then at some point within the next 2 or 3 weeks, they will run out of powder, literally. At the same time, we're seeing Grayscale also buying and having new inflows on their other ETF. So they have ETH, which was the one that got converted, and then they have ETH. And then also we see BlackRock that already has 622 million. So overall, the Ethereum ETF launch has been a decent success relative to the size of Bitcoin. We're still seeing roughly $500 million daily trade volume. And so far, we've only seen 2 green days. So once this aggressive selling is stopping, this bleeding, I think this clears the pathway for a bit of an Ethereum season, and with that also a altcoin season, right? The net flows for Bitcoin yesterday have been only 300K in the greens. Also here, we've seen some outflows here, Fidelity, ARK, Bitwise, but yeah, overall still very bullish, very green, a lot of inflows, hundreds of millions almost daily. So that's all about the ETF flows. And this man has shared an ambitious plan, at least what he is promising, right? It's always one thing, what is he saying? Another thing is what is he doing? And when he had a chance 8 years ago, when he took office in 2017, he didn't really act upon anything. But now he gave a presentation, he gave a keynote at Bitcoin Nashville 1 week ago. And here are some highlights of what he said in his speech, which was nearly for an hour. I watched the whole thing live, but yeah, we'll see if he holds himself accountable and executes on that. Some of the highlights are, he is going to fire Gary Gensler, which is amazing. Hopefully he will do that. Second, create a US government strategic national Bitcoin stockpile if elected. And I think in his actual keynote, he didn't talk too much about that and exact plans. But right after Trump's speech, there was a panel with Senator Cynthia Lummis, and she basically said that the US government, she's proposing a bill for establishing a strategic reserve, and that the US government would buy, I think, up to 1 million BTC over the next couple of years. And if Trump signs that, then it's kiss and goodbye for Bitcoin, for crypto, for altcoins, for business in the US, crypto business, all of that, right? If that goes through, you are not ready to see what's going to happen next year. This would be absolutely huge. But so far, these are all words and just rumors, and like, they're just talking about it, but the fact that they are already talking about it is kind of big. Anyways, US government will keep 100% of their Bitcoins. They have around 200,000 BTC. So Trump is promising to keep them. And right after that, we actually seen some movements from government wallets. So that's also interesting. He said Bitcoin is going to the moon. Never sell your Bitcoin. Bitcoin will one day surpass the market cap of gold, which is at 12 trillion. Bitcoin right now is, I think, at 2. So that's a 6x. I reaffirm my pledge to commute. Russ Ulbricht's sentence, that is very big. And if he actually keeps saying that, I think he would win all the votes from all OG Bitcoiners. No CBDC. Bitcoin and crypto will skyrocket like never before if elected president. And a lot of people expect that also about the economy in general, by the way. Bitcoin is not threatening the dollar. The US government is threatening the dollar. Also very interesting. But a couple of years ago, he said the opposite. He said that Bitcoin and crypto is threatening the dollar and he prefers the dollar. So what now? I mean, I don't know. We have to see, again, what he's doing, not what he's saying. The US will be the crypto capital of the planet and the Bitcoin superpower of the world. Bitcoin stands for freedom, sovereignty, and independence from government, coercion, and control. I pledge to the Bitcoin community that the day I take oath of office, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris' anti-crypto crusade will be over. Big words from the orange man about the orange coin. We'll see where this is going if he gets elected as president in the first place. The race is still ongoing. I think there's a high chance, but we'll see. Then we have some news about crypto adoption in Europe. Ferrari enables crypto payments in Europe after introducing it in the US in October of 2023. So that is good to see. Then we also have this tweet from Jason Janowitz from Blockworks about Google quietly pushing into crypto, cloud support, blockchain analytics, node infra, free testnet ETH, validator for several big L1s and L2s, integration into search, and more. Google is positioned to get involved more in crypto. We also have an enterprise and institutions track at Cosmoverse this year, and we're talking to organizations like Bosch, Vodafone, Deutsche Telekom, Google as well. We also had Alibaba Cloud once. We had a meeting with them as well. I think here also we need to be a little bit careful because crypto solutions are basically designed to replace a lot of these traditional enterprises and their products, right? So the question is, are these organizations going to build crypto products, or are they trying to get in between? Are they trying to be the middleman for crypto, right? That's the big question. I think we have to also hear, same like with politics, the same counts for big enterprise, big corp. We have to wait and see how they actually position, right? I talked to some organizations, and some of their kind of managers and team members, they're very bullish on crypto, decentralization, all of that stuff. But some also see it from a very, very corporate angle, right? And I think that can also be dangerous. But so far, so good. They're doing their homework, they're doing their research, they're coming to Cosmoverse, you can also meet them there, and so on and so forth. On the other hand, now that Trump and the Republicans are so bullish on crypto, we're also seeing the current administration running back. They're running back. The SEC is backing down on claiming that Sol, ADA, Matic, and many more, including Atom, our beloved Cosmos Hub Atom, that they would be securities, right? They're backing down on that. They filed a lawsuit against Binance, and in that lawsuit, which we also reported here when it came out after this whole FTX collapse, after the USDC DPEG, remember that, Silicon Valley Bank, all these banks collapsing, and then we had this report that the SEC would be deeming Solana and Co as securities, but now they're backing out of that. They're backing out, which is good to see. So they're not trying to get a court decision on declaring those assets as securities. And I think that opens up another route, another kind of reason why we're going to see a big alt season, right? And yes, right now altcoins are dead, they're dried out, there's no liquidity inflows, there's no actual user activity besides meme coin trading. But this is not going to stay forever. I mean, this is definitely going to change. The momentum will change, and suddenly you're going to see a couple of weeks of activity, massive inflows of liquidity, a 3 to 5x with some of these altcoins, and suddenly they're not cheap anymore. Suddenly they're not dead anymore. This phase will come, and we're seeing all the signs are boiling up. Another sign is Hayden Adams, founder of Uniswap. DEX market share relative to centralized exchanges is at an all-time high. And if you think about it, this is crazy. This means that a lot of people now, a lot more people are getting on chain. A lot more people are holding self-custody, are trading as empowered individuals, and are not trading on centralized exchanges as much as they used to. And this development kind of only started in early 2020. This was kind of the DeFi summer. Then we had this massive food coin mania, which kind of reminds me a little bit like the celebrity coin mania that we're seeing now on Solana mainly. We had this food coin mania on Ethereum. But yeah, this is now at all-time highs in this market environment. Very, very interesting to see. But that's about general news. Now let's look into the Cosmos ecosystem, which is bleeding Alongside, to be honest, a lot of other altcoins and ecosystems are also bleeding, besides Solana, I would say. But the Cosmos ecosystem is bleeding more, seemingly more than others. And I talked about in the intro about a lot of frustration right now. I think Cosmos also is in a very unique position because there's no base layer alignment. There's no base layer token. Like on Solana, you have Sol, right? It all accrues down to Sol. You have ETH on Ethereum. You have AVAX on Avalanche, right? It all kind of accrues to that one token. But Cosmos is the internet of blockchains, which means it's an internet of sovereign layer one blockchains that all have their own base layer tokens. They all have their own foundations, their own teams, right? So you have a lot of sovereign coordination and sovereign marketing efforts and all these kind of things, and sovereign visions as well, right? Whereas on Solana, for example, the Solana Foundation is taking a very, very proactive approach to make sure Solana and the Sol token gets into warm hands. Users get educated and onboarded, developers, they're doing hackathons all the time. This is all fully funded by the Solana Foundation. And yeah, massive Sol bounties and incentives for everyone to kind of, you know, host events and do all these kind of things. It's a very straightforward process. Also, Super Team, I talked a lot about this. They're doing a great job. I think Cosmos can take some of these ideas, like we're doing also with Cosmoverse, and execute on them, because Solana is giving us the blueprint, literally. Doesn't look nice. Another red day today. I've been traveling for the past 2 days, but this is another red day. Everything down bad. Another bloodbath, pretty much. So not nice to see, of course, but like I said earlier, this is not going to stay forever. A lot of activity on the development side of things, but it's not really reflecting on the charts, right? But speaking of Atom, the Cosmos Hub, we have a lot to catch up on here and to get you synced up. Atom Wars, which we talked about a year and a half ago, something like that, which is now called Hydro. Hydro is basically an initiative to monetize POL, protocol-owned liquidity. And if you remember, there were a couple of proposals in which teams like Persistence or Stride or Agoric requested community funds to be deployed in DeFi, which would then generate a business model. But lending that liquidity was basically for free, right? Hydro aims to gamify that and aims to turn it into a business model, not just for the productivity of the asset itself, but also for lending that service, for lending liquidity, right? That's the whole thing. Basically modeled on Curve. So obviously Curve Wars was the originator of that idea. And it's basically buckets of Atom liquidity in which projects will be able to bid for receiving that liquidity for their ecosystems, right? And there will be multiple buckets, there will be multiple rounds, bidding rounds. And in that way, you're gamifying the system, you're activating communities, and you're basically enabling these wars for liquidity. The first bucket aims to allocate 1 million Atom, which currently is around $6.5 million. And I'm not going to go into this proposal. We have so much more to cover, but basically TLDR is that the original idea is to take 500K in actual regular atoms and to take the other 500,000 atoms, liquid stake it with Stride, and then use that for Atom Wars. However, the backlash here is clearly that the community does not want to keep favoring Stride in that sense, because that means, you know, another 3.5 million TVL for Stride, which I understand. So I think, you know, based on community feedback, and if you go through here, like the comments, a lot of is about that. And also clawing back some of the liquidity that was already distributed, which I also see some movement there. So I think Persistence already mentioned that they want to return their liquidity, and yeah, some others too. But we'll see. I think the most important thing here is really to get started, to prove that Hydro works, to prove that there's demand. And I think this is a compelling second product to security. This is also a tweet from Ethan Buckman, co-founder of Cosmos, who is basically saying, you guys generally like Hydro, but you don't like swapping half for ST Atom, and you want to claw back the old POL first. Seems reasonable. So I think they will take that feedback. So Ethan is, you know, wearing two hats. He's the president of the ICF and co-founder of Cosmos, but also he's the CEO of Informal Systems. There's also some drama around that. And Informal, so his company is basically the one that proposes Hydro and has built out Hydro. So yeah, that's Ethan. Then they also announced another product. So Brian, who is the Cosmos Hub lead, I think, yeah, Cosmos Ops operations lead at Informal as well. He also announced Forge alongside Hydro. And Forge is basically a front end or an interface for the Cosmos community, Cosmos Hub community, to explore consumer chains, explore Atom secured chains, and to basically act as a launch pad. And especially once we have permissionless ICS onboarding, this is much needed. So you'll be able to see that all at one glance when it comes about staking, airdrop liquidity, and so on and so forth. So probably like Emirates, but just for the Cosmos Hub, if you remember Emirates back in the days from 2021. But yeah, it's a launchpad and a place for validators and new ICS chains. And in fact, we did a full-on deep dive on Forge, the ICS Launchpad on the Cosmos Hub, here on the Ceto Zone, where we shared our views, what it is, what it does, how it works, badges, chain launch experience, all these kind of things. So give that a read. I think this is very educational stuff and very important to understand. Now, over the past 24 hours, we have unfortunately seen two major attacks, one of which is an exploit on Astroport that led to the liquidation of a couple of millions of dollars, as far as I understand, and that also immediately tanked the Astro price by 60%. So it was at 4.6 cents, and then it went down to 1.4. Now it's slightly recovering. I think there's already a post-mortem, at least a rough outline with bullet points. Go follow the Delphi team, the Astroport team. They will be sharing updates on their Twitter. We'll probably share more updates here tomorrow. Today, I just want to cover the news. But a TLDR here, as per Larry, is that Astroport wasn't exploited. IBC wasn't exploited. What was exploited was a third-party add-on to IBC called IBC Hooks. And apparently that bug was already found in April, but Terra never patched it. And if you also think back, I did this interview with Chris Armani before the lawsuit. And yeah, when they went to court, I think it didn't end well. So I'm not sure what the future of Terra itself is going to be like, but also the fact that now this incident happened, which is basically another major exploit after UST. It's very, very frustrating, I guess, for the Terra ecosystem and for also now other tokens affected like Astro, right, which became collateral damage here. And today we also woke up to the news that Kujira has suffered some sort of liquidation spiral in which the Kuji token tanked 47%. It is unfortunate, especially for users affected, Kuji investors for now, and I really hope that they can recover from that as well. But yeah, it's a bit of a dark day for Astroport and Kujira and also the Terra ecosystem. So yeah, this news was just reported by the block, and it doesn't seem to be an exploit, rather the team's on-chain leverage positions that got liquidated here, which is wild, considering that this apparently is around the team tokens, the foundation tokens, with their own Kuji token that became under-collateralized under these volatile conditions, and they still have an open debt position of $2 million. This would be absolutely wild, absolutely wild. But yeah, I mean, again, I hope for the best. I hope that they will somehow come out of this stronger. But if this is really true, then I think this would be a big mistrust also by the core team themselves to kind of do that with the foundation funds that were supposed to be there to fund operations, development, and all these kind of things around Kujira. But now let's switch gears and get more positivity up. Let's talk some positive news in the Cosmos ecosystem. Lava Mainnet is finally here. Lava has now launched, and we're very proud with stTIA to be one of the Genesis validators and also RPC providers. Lava is an RPC infrastructure network. We've been covering this here on this channel for a very long time. We've also invested with stTIA into Lava, and you'll be able to stake your Lava with us right now, which is very much appreciated. In fact, we also did a partnership with stakingrewards.com that have been upping their game massively over the past years. And we are now a not only verified staking provider on staking rewards, but also you are able to basically stake through staking rewards with us. So they have evolved their platform so that you can now also directly connect your Kepler or Leap and actually search. My co-founder, he made a full-on tutorial how that works, how you can stake with us. Alternatively, you can also go to Leap or Kepler directly, search for Lava, and then you'll see here and you can stake through Kepler as well, for example. And this is how it looks like on staking rewards. You can see a 148.75% reward. And you can also stake to multiple validators in one go. That is also a cool feature provided here by staking rewards. The Lava token itself is at around 11 cents right now, 11-12 cents, which implies a 120 million FTV, which considering the current market environment is not that bad, but it's also not amazing, right? And I think this means potentially decent upside for the Lava token in this bull run. I think it was also relatively smart to kind of not launch high FTV and low float, even though that means the airdrop, if you got one, is smaller versus if it was high FTV, low float. But now that is low FTV, relatively low float, I'm not sure how many tokens are in circulation right now, but that means there's potentially higher upside, right? And you're basically eye to eye with previous investors as well. And if you received your Lava airdrop, then I think you will have to use Axelar in order to bridge it over to Arbitrum, because that's where currently the only liquidity is. I think they are in the process of rolling out liquidity on Osmosis as well, but they prioritized Arbitrum first, and I think centralized exchange listings might follow later on. Remember that Lava raised, I think, in total $26 million or even more than that. So I think exchange listings might be in the works and coming soon. But yeah, I think the first phase is to get out the initial liquidity, the initial price finding, see how the airdrop campaign is performing and how many people are actually selling their airdrops. And I think from there, strengthen liquidity, get centralized exchange listings done, and roll out also more on DEXs. Then we have some news from Stride. The stTIA airdrop claim is now live. Remember how back in December, I think it was, when we announced the airdrop campaign in which Stride allocated 5% of the Genesis supply or the total supply for the stTIA launch. So if you held stTIA on Stride, on Celestia, or on other chains and applications, then you are basically farming on a daily basis STRD tokens, right? Now, these STRD tokens are being distributed, which means every single day, a portion of these 5 million Stride will be distributed to those who farmed it. This means, obviously, for the next 180 days, massive sell pressure potentially. And the Stride token itself has also dumped a lot. I think it was at around $7, and now it's below $1. So yeah, that might imply further sell pressure here. And one way how they want to mitigate that is by having this instant unlock option, in which you can basically get your entire airdrop amount, but you're forfeiting 30%. So you actually only get 70%, but you get it immediately and you can whatever, sell it or whatever you want. But yeah, I think this is probably something to react to this potential longer term 6-month sell pressure that is around. Another airdrop that was just distributed is the Penumbra airdrop, the token, which we've been covering here on this channel extensively over the recent weeks and months. The token is also now live on Osmosis, currently trading at 40 cents. And Penumbra is primarily a privacy-enabled DEX and app chain for privacy. And Winnie from my team at stxedo did a fantastic overview of the airdrop, a full-on tutorial, how to get the airdrop, how to receive it. Because remember, you had to set up this Prax wallet, a browser extension, install that, and how you get your tokens, what you can do with them is what Vinny is telling you in that video. So go check that out right after watching that video. Then we have some news from Saga. Vault 3 tokens have been distributed. My strong recommendation would be to, if you believe in Saga, of course, but to restake at least 95, 98% of that airdrop amount, because we know Saga is going to reward loyalty. So the next round will probably also be for loyal stakers, which means stakers who increase their stake, especially as prices keep going down, especially the more time passes, the more they will reward loyalty. So that's all about Saga. Then we also have a new mission that is live now on the Mantra testnet. You can now claim your staking rewards, your OM staking rewards, and she explains here also how you can do that. We are also one of the validators with stxedo on Mantra, so you can also delegate and restake with us with stxedo on Mantra. The Mantra chain is going to be a Cosmos L1 that is optimized for tokenization RWAs, and is already a top 80 chain by market cap, right? Over $1 billion in FDV, and that will become a full-on Cosmos chain in the next couple of weeks. They will also, by the way, be leading the tokenization track this year at Cosmoverse and do a lot more cool stuff, which we can share in the next few days and weeks. Now, I will leave you with our ultimate interchain airdrop guide written by Sepmos, my researcher here at Cryptosito. And in this airdrop guide, we're walking you through the whole process of what type of airdrops, what you should be staking or considering to stake, how many tokens you should consider to stake. And I think the airdrop meta in Cosmos will never end. Why? Well, because you always have new app chains launching. And it's not like in other ecosystems where new token launches are basically smart contracts on the main layer. In Cosmos, many of them are actually sovereign layer 1 blockchains, which means they have a lot more utility for the native token. They have their own kind of valuations, their own investor circle, their own foundations, right? They have their own everything. And there's still a lot of new L1s that are going to launch in the next weeks and months. And staking Atom alone is going to bring a lot of airdrops, as always, as it always did. There's just a few that are around the corner, like Lorenzo. There's going to be for Bitcoin LSTs, Landslide for the AVAX Interoperability Hub, Cycles by Informal, Illis as well, that already announced one, Ether as well. So yeah, we're just sharing coin per coin, why Dime, why Saga, why should you consider staking these, what you should do with these, also NFTs like Bad Kids or the Sloth collection. And yeah, that's basically it. Go through that right now. Also watch Vinny's video, and I'll leave you guys with those information for today. It's been a packed video, but I hope you enjoyed it. You learned something. I hope you're sticking through. You're not getting shaken out by other people's frustrations, right? This is literally the worst thing you could do is if you're not even frustrated, but you get contaminated by other people's frustrations, right? So that's probably the worst way to get washed out from crypto, or Cosmos in that case. But yeah, that's all for today. I'll see you guys soon, very soon. Until then, stay safe and be good.